Warning. The following video contains strong language that some viewers may find offensive or disturbing.
Serious fans who have been engrossed in a fictional universe so much you could probably earn a degree about it. What plot holes, logical inconsistencies, and the like cannot be reconciled and bother you to no end? In some comics of Archie, Veronica has a dog, in others she has a cat. This would be fine, except in other versions she's allergic to cats or hates dogs. Keep your character internally consistent. 10-year-old me was not impressed. The fact that there are two Rumpelstiltskins in the Shrek universe really annoys me, and many people seem to not have noticed. We all know the Rumpelstiltskin from the last movie, but in Shrek the Third, when Prince Charming enters the poison apple and starts talking to other villains, he actually talks to Rumpelstiltskin. But it's not the same that appears in Shrek Forever After. I grew up with the Bay Transformers films, and while I'll always have a soft spot for the first three, holy shit, the lore might be the worst in all of fiction. In the first film, the Allspark, a cube that makes Transformers and the cause of the war, lands on Earth in the early 1900s, and it takes the Autobots and Decepticons 100 years to find Earth. Oh wait. No, it doesn't, because they've been on Earth since at least the 1800s and never thought to look for the very thing the war was all about. Hell, the Primes, basically Transformer gods, built their Sun Eater in Egypt and were buried on the damn planet. How did they not write Earth down in any records if it was an important planet to them? Also, did you know that the Transformers were the cause of the space race? And that they were making deals with the CIA and NASA all the way back in the 60s? And they still didn't think to look for Megatron or the Allspark in that time period? Also, the government organization made specifically to research Transformers had no idea about any of that? Oh yeah, Transformers killed the dinosaurs too, because Earth was actually being used to mine transformium, which is what Transformers are made out of. Oh yeah, about that. The Allspark did jack shit all along because other aliens made Transformers. So the war was pointless. And Primes are knights now, not gods for some reason. Speaking of knights, did you know that Transformers were at King Arthur's Round Table? They also fought in both world wars. The American Revolution. They killed Hitler, served the Japanese Empire, etc. All along, because why the fuck not? Also, a goddess named Quintessa made the Transformers. Not those other aliens and not the Allspark. To fight Unicron. Who's Unicron? Well, he's the Thanos of the Transformers universe. And he's been Earth all along. Yep. Earth was a Transformer too. Also, Cybertron, the planet they are from, is somehow still alright, even though it got sucked into a literal black hole in Transformers 3 and blew the fuck up. Oh yeah, about that hole, it took 100 years for Autobots to come to Earth thing. Well, not only was Optimus and the gang on Earth the whole time, they also forgot about that and didn't come to Earth till the 80s, which is still earlier than they arrived in 2007. So we have 3 different time points for Optimus's army coming to Earth. And 2 different time points for Megatron's. It's a fucking clusterfuck. There are so many confusing characters, franchises to choose as a comic book fan. But I've got to give it to Wonder Woman. For those that don't know, DC tends to do soft reboots every once in a while, which makes continuity difficult to parse, but there are usually through lines, and little changes are explained by the continuity shift. Currently, they're trying to say all the old stories kind of did happen, and the 2011 reboot wasn't actually a hard reboot like they tried to pitch it as. I realize this doesn't appear to make any sense, but in reality, for most characters, it actually works if you don't think too hard. But not for Wonder Woman. Every time they do any kind of reboot, her backstory is completely overhauled. Sometimes not even when there's a continuity excuse. To the point where there are almost as many stories dealing with retconning her origins as there are stories about her doing her superhero thing in the last 10 years. And unlike Hawkman, there is no clever way to connect that disparity. Is she a clay golem given life by the gods? Is she the daughter of Zeus? Is she the daughter of Hercules? Who knows? And there's absolutely no way to reconcile the 3. Is she a diplomat for the Mysteria? Trying to influence the UN to help with world peace? Nope. Because someone recently decided she's never been back to the Mysteria since the first time she left. And when was that? WW1? WW2? The Cold War? Sliding timescale of a while ago but in modern times? No way to know, because classic stories have taken place in all those timelines. Really, none of her early stories could have possibly happened due to current retcons. Yet she's been a hero for at least 10 plus years as a Justice League member. So, it's just a waste, is what I'm trying to say. Writers Louvy rewriting Superman's origin, but good God, does it never stop for Wonder Woman. If they'd give her a few years to breathe and grow as a character instead of changing her origin, which inevitably changes again, she'd be much more popular. Which she deserves. And at least Superman has 2+ ongoing books even when they do decide to take his origin out for a spin in a new miniseries. At least she has her perfect costume. Finally. In X-Files there are like 3 different versions of Samantha's abduction, and they all significantly impact the plot and the way Mulder reacts to certain situations. It's my favorite show of all time, but I've always found it annoying that they kept retconning that aspect of the myth arc. I know why they did it, but it was dumb emo. In Toy Story 4, Woody uses a dump truck to escape the playground. It only moves when he pushes it. However, in other Toy Story movies, toy vehicles are shown to be alive and move by themselves. In the original Star Wars, Obi-Wan's wearing a big robe to hide himself so nobody knows he's a Jedi. But in the prequels they made those robes Jedi robes, so now Obi-Wan is literally walking around in Jedi clothing while trying to hide from the Empire. Basically anything in Warhammer 40k lore that has to do with scale of measurement. You gotta take the inconsistencies as being part of the setting of a 10,000-year-old crumbling galactic empire in which ignorance is a virtue. You've probably heard this one before. But in Harry Potter, Hogwarts was built before the invention of the sink. Or basin, whatever you want to call it. However, the Chamber of Secrets, built at the same time as the rest of the castle, uses a sink as its method of entry. So how did Salazar Slytherin create an entrance to the chamber using a form of indoor plumbing that wouldn't exist for centuries to come? In the original King Kong, apparently the locals built this giant wall around their city to keep Kong out. Right? So why is there a Kong-sized door in the wall? At some point they must have said, we need to build a wall big enough to keep out the giant ape. I know, let's put a huge door in it and then we'll just lock it. Pokémon. Oh, where to begin? Let's just talk about Cubone. Cubone is said to wear the skull of its dead mother. However, if you breed Cubone, it's born with the skull already on its head. And its mother is still alive and well. So how is Cubone wearing its mother's skull? In Futurama, how does Leela not understand why that one guy is a whale biologist? She used to assign people their jobs. Because all occupations are based on what you're best at, not what you want. You gotta do what you gotta do. His response is equally baffling, though hilarious. I don't know you well enough to get into that. It was assigned to you. Star Trek deals with time travel a lot and it only sometimes makes sense. Usually it can be reconciled with some general rules. Timelines in Trek seem to be linear. You can go into the past and change things and it doesn't just create an alternate timeline. It changes the one you are in. This is most easily seen in Star Trek First Contact. When the Enterprise is stuck in a temporal rift as Borg in the past assimilate Earth, they see the planet in the present immediately get assimilated. However, there are an infinite amount of alternate timelines and universes. https://youtube. Beeper Sievert 408 CBBFSA. 3 of which are most prominent. Prime Timeline as the TV shows. Kelvin Timeline as the 2009 J.J. Abrams reboot. Mirror Universe is just an alternate universe that appears occasionally. Things start to get confusing when the shows actually do time travel. As I've established, timelines in Star Trek are linear. However, The Kelvin timeline actually occurred because a supernova in the Prime timeline shot a bunch of pissed-off Romulans from the 2380s back in time to the 2230s of an alternate dimension where they destroyed the USS Kelvin. What is confusing is that according to the writers and what we see in the movie, this event actually somehow changed history before the Kelvin was destroyed. Which is an explanation for why the ships are like twice as big as they should be if they were just regular Prime timeline ships. The real explanation is that J.J. Abrams thought Star Trek ships were too small and made them bigger because he has no sense of scale. In Star Trek Voyager, the finale of the show established that it took around 20 years for the USS Voyager to get home from the Delta Quadrant. A jaded and bitter Admiral Janeway acquires a Klingon time travel device and goes back in time bearing advanced technology with the intent of bringing Voyager home far earlier and with everyone alive. The problem is, as I've already established, timelines in Star Trek are linear. Literally the moment Admiral Janeway interacts with Captain Janeway and starts to mess with the progress of their voyage, she should cease to exist as the events that led her to that moment no longer happened. Instead, she sticks around long enough to sacrifice herself to destroy the Borg transwarp network and get everyone home safely. Also, earlier in the series a Federation timeship from the 29th century threatened Janeway to stop getting involved in time travel stuff. But they are apparently okay with just letting the 24th century Federation skip around 15 years of weapon development and literally crippling the Borg. And mentioning that, they also let the ship's emergency medical hologram return home with a mobile hologram emitter from the 29th century. Not very good time cops. There's definitely others, but I'll stop here. How are Vulcans not running all of Starfleet and the Federation? With their very long lifespan compared to humans. Once one got a top-level position, they would stay there for way longer than most species would. Eventually most positions would end up being them most of the time. Bionicle's story was spread and retold throughout different pieces of media, so there were sometimes conflicting versions of events. For example, in the book version of the final battle the main villain's head was broken in by a piece of a moon, while in the comics the whole thing just got smashed into the back of his head. Edit. Oh, and decanonizing the concept of love didn't make a lot of people happy. In Friends, the characters' ages and birthdays never sync up. Rachel tells Gunther her birthday is in May, then later says she's an Aquarius. And assuming she is close to Monica's age around the pilot episode, which is 26 to 27, she doesn't turn 30 until season 6. Arthur the Animated Kids Show. Why do anthropomorphic animal people keep regular animals as pets? Like, Arthur and his family of aardvark people have a pet dog that is just a regular little dog. Even though there are dog people characters? What the hell? In Brooklyn Nine-Nine, it was established in season 3, I think lol, that Rosa drives a supercharged R1. That's a Yamaha R1. In a later season, she says something like, Yamaha is for pussies, but is seen still driving the same bike. The Walking Dead. Gasoline is only good in cars for 6 months. In cans maybe a few years. In pumps, 5 years. They should not have been able to use cars after like year 6. In Zombieland, a comedy, whenever the cast would go into a building they would make noise to draw out and deal with the zombies first, then do whatever they wanted. Yet not once does TWD group ever clear out a building first. They stumble into them and someone always either gets bit or nearly gets bit. World War Z, it took them 5 minutes to realize magazines strapped on your arms protects you from bites, and it seems to be a TWD rule to only wear t-shirts and maybe some leather if you're cool enough. If you stick a pocket knife in a skull, you need both hands and a boot on the head to get it back. And if your weapon had nails on it, it's gone after 1 use. Barbed wire, not a vast improvement. You risk getting it caught very easily. And finally, they have established multiple times the walkers smell like dead, rotting flesh. If you walk into a room or house that smells like dead rotting flesh, you know what the hell is in there. And if you're walking around the woods and suddenly smell dead rotting flesh, you should know what the hell is near you. There is no reason they should ever sneak up on anyone. I watched The Walking Dead up until the motherfucking tiger. I just couldn't handle it. Everyone. And like I mean everyone was scrounging around for food, and you're telling me this guy had enough food to feed a fucking tiger. For like IDK how long it was, but at least a year or two. That's so much food. Because if he wasn't feeding the tiger, then it would for sure kill and eat him. So everyone. All his friends are just cool with feeding this tiger hundreds of pounds of food. Just so this one fucking guy can look cool. Ah, fuck that. Just so stupid. Also, they killed off everyone I cared about. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and hit the notification button. See you next time.